Salt and pepper, birds and bees, soap and water, baby got to do the two.
Hi, I'm Katelyn Alaniz. I'm an active member of Student Council at Louisiana Culinary Institute, and we have partnered with Blue Cross to do the Louisiana two-step, and we're going to do a farm-to-table demonstration. With the fresh produce we have here, you always want to start out by washing it. So I have some of my already washed kale out over here that I have chopped up. But just to show you, whenever you get this kale, you want to pick out a nice firm kale that's, not wilted, and then we're going to just cut the rib out of it because it's going to be a little bit harder to cook that. It's not going to tenderize as quick, so we can just get rid of that. So after we cut out the rib, we're going to go ahead and just cut it into our 2-inch portions, and then we're going to be ready to use. Next, I'm going to cut up this onion. I'm just going to start by slicing it down about 3 times. And then I'm just going to chop it sideways. I'm going to turn those down a little bit, easier to chop. Just a rough chop is fine. All right. For this recipe, we're also going to cut up some assorted sweet peppers that we got fresh from the farmer's market. I'm going to start out by cutting out this membrane because it tends to be kind of bitter sometimes. So then I'm just going to go ahead and chop that up. I'm going to take this pepper, do the same thing with it as well. And the same thing with the red bell pepper. You don't want to leave all of this membrane in here. We're going to cut that out, and then we're going to slice. There we go. Same thing with these. It's always better to use fresh ingredients from the farmer's market and seasonal items because they add a lot of flavors to your dishes. Fresh, natural flavors. For this yellow squash, I'm going to do it in a half moon cut. Right now, I have my squash. I'm going to peel it. I'm going to do it for a little bit of decoration. So I'm just going to alternating, and then you could just go all the way around like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. You can cut your half moon shapes into about a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and then they're ready to go also. All right, I have my items all together here, all of them measured out and everything all set up, ready to go, handy for when I need it. In the industry, we call this mise en place, and it just helps you to have organization when you're making a dish. Everything's right there when you need it, so it's just an easier way to get everything organized. I put an ounce of oil in the pan. I'm gonna get it heated up and ready to put our onions in for caramelization. I'm gonna go ahead and add my onions. I'm gonna add these also. You want to get those to a nice brown caramel color. It's going to bring out a lot of the deep flavors in the onions, and it's going to add a lot of depth to your dish. We're going to go ahead and cook those for about 5 minutes or until they just have that nice caramel color and they're all nice and tender. All right, so we have this nice dark caramel color, and I can really smell the nice caramelization that we have on these onions. I'm going to add my kale. This is going to start the cooking process. Braising is a 2-step process, so sauteing this kale in here is going to be 1 step of the process. We're going to coat it in the oil. Your leaves are going to start to get a little bit tender, and you can just make sure they get a nice good coating of the oil and your onion that you have in here. Next, I'm going to add my chicken stock. I have about 1.5 cups. It's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes, but I'm going to let it come to a hard simmer and let it start getting really, really hot. And then I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to put the lid on it and let it braise. The braising process takes about 7 to 8 minutes. For this particular type of kale, it has a tendency to be a little bit tougher, so it can take a little bit longer for it to become tender. I'm going to let that go for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to check my leaves for tenderness, and I'm going to add my squash at that point. While the kale is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and add some oil to my pan and heat that up so that I can saute my peppers. It's not going to take long. I should only saute them for maybe about a minute or so, just until they get a little bit soft. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. The best way to use your ingredients is to pick out the seasonal items and use the freshest ingredients that you can find. To get the best possible flavors in my dishes, I always use fresh produce from the farmer's market. All right, those are going to be done. I'm going to take just a couple of these out for later whenever I need to plate. The rest of these I'm just going to add to it after I add my yellow squash. So the kale should be good and tender by now. The leaves are wilted and they're taking on a darker green. And so it's about time to go ahead and add my yellow squash. And I'm going to continue to cook this open. The yellow squash can be added at the last second because they don't take very long to cook at all. So you want to add those at the last minute to make sure that they're still a little bit crisp. Right, I'm going to go ahead and add my peppers. And I'm just going to give that a good mix. And I'm going to cut my heat up a little bit to get some of that liquid out of there. You don't have to wait until it's completely dry to take out your kale. You just have to make sure that your kale is tender because it does have a tendency to be chewy if you don't cook it long enough. It can take about 3 to 5 minutes to get all of this moisture out of here. We don't want it too dry, just to get some of that extra liquid out. So back here I've reserved the chicken stock that I was cooking my kale in, and I'm just going to go ahead and reduce that down. When the reducing, all I'm going to do is just let some of it evaporate out, and it's just going to become thicker, and it's going to add a little bit of body to the dish at the end. So I've used all of the natural flavors that my peppers and everything adds to my dish. I haven't used any sauces or added any extra heavy flavorings. I'm just going to add a little bit of salt to bring out those natural flavors and a little bit of cracked pepper. Once your chicken stock has reduced, it's going to have just a little bit of more body to it. It's going to have a good consistency, and that's exactly what you're looking for. This is all ready and dried out, so I'm going to cut all these off, and we are ready for plating. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add this gloss to the plate, and then I can just take some of this kale. All right, and there you go. That's how you do the two. I'm Katelyn, and thank you for cooking with us.
Got to do the two.